Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive, completely silent security threat that's happening in office buildings, remote workspaces, and kitchen tables right this very second. It's an invisible data breach. And you know what makes it so fascinating and honestly so incredibly dangerous? It doesn't involve any malicious hackers, there's no complex malware, and nobody is busting through a firewall. It is happening right in plain sight. Let's get right into it. Just listen to this quote from our source material. Somewhere right now, an employee is pasting a draft contract into a public AI tool. I wanted to hook you immediately with this scenario because it's just so remarkably mundane. We're not talking about a rogue actor trying to steal corporate secrets here. This is literally just a normal, everyday employee, probably staring down a looming deadline who's just trying to clean up some awkward phrasing in a multi-million-dollar vendor agreement before their boss sees it. So they paste it in, the response comes back in seconds, the language sounds way better, and they move on. Nobody flagged it, no alarm went off, nothing about that moment felt like a security breach at all. But make no mistake, it absolutely was. All right, let's jump into section 1, the invisible breach. Imagine walking through this incredibly fast-paced timeline of a typical incident. Let's say it's 2:14 p.m. An employee prompts an AI with some text. The response comes back instantly. By 2:31 p.m., they've copied that suggested language into their draft, closed the AI tab, and sent the document off to the client. By 3 p.m., they have moved on to something else entirely. Notice how there is absolutely zero friction here. The employee has zero idea that they just handed over highly sensitive company data. Their manager doesn't know, the IT department sure doesn't know, because there is absolutely no internal log of this event ever happening. It's like a ghost in the machine. You really have to notice the sheer contrast between intention and reality here. Think about what the employee actually wanted. Just a quick grammar fix, right? Maybe a little help rewording a clunky paragraph. But look at what the public AI tool actually received in that prompt. The rest of the document just came right along for the ride. The client identity, a pricing structure that hasn't even been announced yet, a highly sensitive clause reflecting the company's negotiating position on liability. The employee just handed over a massive, confidential data payload to a public server, simply because they needed a better adjective. The tool responds. The tool is helpful. The interaction ends. This quote perfectly captures the eerie black box nature of this whole transaction. Think about it. If you accidentally email a sensitive document to the wrong client, you usually realize it immediately, right? Your stomach drops, there's a paper trail. If you download malware, your antivirus software screams at you. But with public AI tabs, there are no alarms, no warnings. What happens to the input is completely disconnected from the output you see on your screen. The employee gets their grammar fix, and they have absolutely no earthly idea what happens to their data next. Moving on to section 2, inside the AI prompts. Okay, it's really worth pausing on what kind of information actually lives inside these documents we're casually tossing around. We're talking about contract drafts and deal structures, unannounced pricing schedules, internal personnel decisions, acquisition interests. Imagine a candid strategic product roadmap, like literally the exact feature your company plans to launch to crush a rival next year, instantly losing its proprietary value just because someone needed help formatting the bullet points. Now, none of this is technically classified by the government. Most of it might not even have a giant red confidential stamp on the top. But as our source points out, this is the ordinary texture of business. It's highly valuable, non-public info that gives a company its competitive edge, and it vanishes the moment it enters a public AI model. So what actually does happen to that data? Well, we have to look at the huge gap between a free browser tab and enterprise guarantees. Public AI tools are run by companies with their own specific terms of service. Some use your inputs to train their future models, some don't. Some offer enterprise tiers, the paid versions, with strict data isolation guarantees and commitments about where the data lives. But here is the crucial catch. The worker using the free browser tab to fix their grammar has not purchased those enterprise guarantees. They're totally exposed to varied, wildly confusing terms of service that, let's be honest, they definitely have not read.
That brings us to section 3, the policy vacuum.
Organizations suffering from this usually have a massive policy vacuum. Just look at the logical flow here. Step 1, there simply is no approved AI tool for the employee to use. Or maybe step 2, there actually is an approved tool, but it's incredibly slow, less capable, or the instructions to access it are buried in some memo from 6 months ago that nobody bothered to read. So what happens? Step 3. The worker simply opens a free public tab to meet the panic of a 3 p.m. deadline. Honestly, you kind of have to empathize with the worker here. The employee filling this vacuum isn't trying to be a rebel. They aren't intentionally trying to circumvent security. They are just using simple, logical problem solving to get their job done with the best available tool.
Let's look at a fascinating historical parallel in Section 4, Echoes of Shadow IT.
Remember back in 2008, we had this thing called Shadow IT. Employees started bringing their shiny new personal iPhones to work just to check email. They used their personal Dropbox accounts to share large files because the so-called enterprise IT solutions were either non-existent, ancient, or agonizingly slow. Fast forward to today, and we have Shadow AI. Employees are using public AI tabs for the exact same reason, to circumvent slow or missing corporate tools. This brilliantly illustrates a core truth. Employees will always organically choose the better, faster tool to do their work. The behavioral pattern is exactly the same. The only things that have changed are the tools themselves and the truly massive scale of the data flowing through them.
Which leads us to the inevitable fallout in Section 5, the coming compliance wave.
The days of flying under the radar are basically over. The asking has already begun. Auditors are already starting to add AI usage to their standard inquiry lists. Cyber insurers, who, by the way, absolutely hate unquantified risk, are demanding to know exactly what data is moving through which systems before they'll even think about renewing a policy. Clients are starting to tap their fingers and ask where their sensitive data went, and regulators, like the SEC for finance or HIPAA for healthcare, they aren't waiting for new AI-specific laws to be passed. No, they are simply applying their strict existing data handling rules to these new AI tools. The pressure is undeniable, and it is mounting fast. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, I work at a tiny company, this is just an enterprise problem for the big guys, think again. Compliance always travels down market. Here is the trajectory. Step 1, it starts with the massive enterprises facing formal audits and drafting up big frameworks. Step 2, those enterprises push those exact requirements down to their vendors through client contracts. Step 3, a 10-person accounting firm, a regional contractor, or a solo medical practice is suddenly forced to comply. The fact that nobody is auditing the small firm right now is simply a function of timing. It's not about scale. This compliance wave is going to inevitably hit everyone. But here is the genuinely chilling reality we are left with today. The log remains completely empty. Sure, governance frameworks are being frantically built right now to protect us tomorrow. But what about all the data that was pasted into browser tabs yesterday? What about the contracts and pricing structures being pasted right now, literally while you are watching this explainer? There is absolutely no audit trail for the massive data leaks happening today. The gap between what institutions know they should be doing and what employees are doing on a daily basis is almost total. So, I want to leave you with this final, really provocative question to chew on. What is an organization's obligation with respect to what it cannot fully know? When the auditors finally knock on the door and the cyber insurers demand to see the logs, how do you account for years of invisible breaches that felt like absolutely nothing while they were happening? It's a massive, unresolved liability sitting inside thousands of companies right now, just waiting for the browser tab to close. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and seriously, keep a very close eye on what you paste today.